Good morning. Welcome to the live stream. Today is Saturday, January 3rd. How's it going? Welcome. My name is Angela. I am a front-end developer and software engineer in St. Paul, Minnesota. And on this channel, we just practice HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I'm a vanilla gal. I don't have anything against libraries and frameworks. I just like to practice the basics. So we keep things vanilla here. That's all. We just like to practice because, let's face it, the browser natively renders HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, right? So I think it's still worth it to learn those things. And that's what we do. That's what we just practice. Rahul is here from Nepal. Hello. Rahul is a mod in the chat. Go Elmo, formerly Go Elmo Go, currently Malik Robinson from Florida, enjoying some mild 60-degree weather. I'm so jealous. I'm in St. Paul, Minnesota. Although we're having, as winter standards go, we're having a pretty mild day today, but we've certainly had our share of cold, icy, snowy weather. And it's just grimy. This type of year, now that we're past the holidays and entering into January, February, March, this is the time of year that's just kind of grimy in Minnesota because the plows are out, there's salt and sand to keep the roads clear, and all of that just sort of builds up and gets grimy. And then you're tracking it in the house on your boots and your shoes, and I'm already over it. And I just think it's going to be a long, bleak, overcast, grimy winter, and I'm not looking forward to it. So here we are. On that note, how's it going? Rizzy G's here. Hello, how are you doing? Well, I'm doing really, really well. How are you doing? I'm so glad that you could join us today. And Rizzy says, I'm preparing my portfolio. I have started applying for jobs. Congratulations. And listen, treat applying for jobs like a numbers game. It only takes one. It only takes one hiring manager, one technical recruiter, one HR person. It only takes one. So treat it like a numbers game and keep us updated. I would love to know how things go. Let us know if you find yourself in any situations that you're not quite sure about. Maybe we can give you some advice, if you want it. So all right, well, today is the beginning of a 5-day sprint. I'm not making a big deal out of the fact that it's like a 5-day sprint. I'm just going to be here for the next 5 days, treating this time as work time. We're going to finish up this project that we're working on called Responsive Video Gallery. This is something that I built way back in the day. 2013 is when I built this, before I even had a job as a developer. And I used jQuery and a jQuery plugin called FancyBox. And we're going to redo this as vanilla JavaScript. And this site just needed a redesign anyways. This is not, it's not accessible. So it just needs a redo anyways. Yeah, so that's that. And I think I put the correct link to the correct repository down in the description. There are 2 repositories. There's one for the old version, and then we started one for the new version. So that's that. And Rizzy says, all your projects look good. I am having a tough time deciding which project to make it my own and put it in my portfolio. Oh, my advice is all of them. Put all of them in there. I mean, I don't know how many that you have, but if you're having a hard time deciding which one, put them all in. A portfolio should be not 1 or 2 things. It should be everything. I personally think it's a good idea to put everything in, especially if it's a portfolio that shows your progress, right? So maybe those first few projects you're not like super proud of or super thrilled with, but think about how an employer might view that. They might look at that and see progress if you put everything in. So, yeah, So I don't know, consider that. Memory Clips is here. Hello, welcome. So Memory Clips is Turkish. I think you're Turkish. Maybe you're not from Turkey, but I think you're a Turk. And I had talked in a video about my experience going to Turkey and meeting Fazıl Say. And Memory Clips, you left me a comment about being surprised to hear me talk about that. So I love the Turks. I love Turkey. I love the culture. I love everything about it. And that was back in 2000. I can't remember if it was 2011 or 2012. I think it was 2011. I went to the Antalya Piano Festival, which is Antalya, Turkey, which is the city on the Mediterranean right here. I mean, I remember it like it was yesterday. It was, yeah, it was 15 years ago. I can't believe that was 15 years ago. Um, yeah, I flew into Istanbul. I was able to drive across, um, where's the bridge that you drive across? Basically, Turkey is a country that is split into two continents. There's the European side and the Asian side, and I drove over the bridge to go from Europe to Asia. So that was pretty cool. So technically, I've been to Asia. One moment. And Memory Clips says, I am from Antalya originally, and I love all the Mediterranean zone. Yeah, it's really a beautiful, beautiful part of Turkey. Istanbul is also, I mean, it's, I don't even know how to put into words what it's like to be in Istanbul. Well, I didn't spend much time there. I only spent about a day there. But I just remember thinking, first of all, it is such a densely populated city, but it's also this blend of like modern technology and like ancient culture. It's a wild place. I think it's one of the most unique places on earth. Not that I would know because I haven't done that much traveling, but it is an incredible city. I think the entire country is incredible. I think the Turks are incredible. It was one of the most interesting experiences I've ever had. Really, really, really enjoyed it. So yeah, I will be a Fazıl Say fan forever. I really, really like him. So and Rahul says is commenting on Fancy Box, Lightbox. Yes, those days. Those were the days. Agreed. That everybody used Fancy Box back in the day. So, and Rizzy says, I'm working on a flashcard app. I took the design from Frontend Mentor. I just took from 3 pictures they showed me on the challenge page because the Figma files are locked behind a paywall. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I think that's very clever, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. So, Rizzy says, I'm done with the HTML and CSS, working on the JavaScript today. Rizzy also says, I love Turkish food. I have tasted peed, which was awesome. Isn't that yogurt? It's like a yogurt drink. Hang on. No. Okay, I'm thinking of something else. Yes, I have had this also. Oh, pide, excuse me. Pide, popular boat-shaped Turkish flatbread. I have also had this. Made from leavened dough baked with various savory toppings. Yeah, I have had this. What's the yogurt drink? I didn't like it. You guys have, and I love yogurt, but it's very popular to like have this yogurt drink, and I just didn't like it. When I lived in San Diego, there was a Turkish grocery store in San Diego that I used, like a market that I used to go to, and I would buy this yogurt drink. Oh, I only bought it once because I didn't like it. So, oh my gosh, Rizzy. Did you make friends with any cats in Istanbul? Literally, the next thing that I was going to say was there are cats everywhere in Turkey. So, Not in Istanbul, because I was only there for about a day. Well, technically less than a day, but in Antalya, where I was for about a week. I was in Antalya for about a week. We were at this big resort and there were cats everywhere. And yes, I absolutely made friends. There were some cats that were what I would put into the feral category that were not so nice, but I remember one kitten in particular that I did make friends with and I desperately wanted to take home, but of course I wasn't going to be able to do that. So, and Memory Clip says, yes, I have, in my home, I have two. So I think you're talking about two cats. Julian is here. Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Iron, this is the yogurt drink. AYR. Hang on. AYRAN. Yes. This. I didn't like this. I wanted to because I love yogurt, but I really didn't like this. So, maybe in the US we're too spoiled by like sweet fruity yogurts. That could be it. So, LASSI. Let me see. Hang on here. LASSI. I don't know what this is, but popular creamy yogurt based Indian drink. So it wasn't this, but I would try this. Often called the original smoothie, made by blending yogurt with water, fruit like mango or spices. So I would try this. I was not a fan of this, but I would try this. So, and Julian says, how are you? I'm doing well, Julian. How are you doing? I love this. I love our little bonding sessions before we get started working. I'm a fan. So, okay. So like I said, also I have a goal for today, which is to not be muted and talking at length. So that's happened like 2 or 3 times in a row now. Thank you, Malik. I think 2 days ago, Malik came into the chat and he's like, I've been gone for 5 minutes and I come back and you've been muted this whole time. I was like, oh my God. So Lassi, am I saying that correctly? Lassi has a lot of flavors. I'm not gonna, if it's yogurt, I would probably default to sweet. I have a sweet tooth. I can't imagine yogurt that's not sweet. So, and Julian says, greetings from Colombia. Well, welcome. I'm glad that you could join us. We have people from all over the world hanging out on these streams. I think that's so cool. So, and I, of course, appreciate all of you guys. Do me a favor, if you haven't yet, go ahead and like the video. It helps me push it out to more people who might be interested in this type of content. Subscribed if you are not. Go ahead and please subscribe if you aren't already. I have big plans for growing this channel and making more of this type of content. I think that the best way to learn development, and of course I am a front-end developer, so that's what we do here, is project-based. I think that courses will introduce you to a new idea, a new language, syntax, the rules, things like that, right? A tutorial will answer a specific question. I think that in order to really learn how to do something, you need to work on projects. You need to find an image, go do what Rizzy did, go to Frontend Mentor, and if the files are locked behind a paywall, just look at the image, treat it like a mock-up, and start building. There's nothing wrong with that. Go to Pinterest and look for layouts, web design layouts, or UI inspiration. Go to ThemeForest and buy mockups, which is what I did back in my freelancing days. And just start building. I don't think there's a right or a wrong way to do things. I have a lot of experience building UIs, so I think that I am a good, efficient builder of UIs, but I'm always learning and finding new ways to do things better and more efficient. I don't have I remember how to do a lot of things. I remember a lot of CSS, but I still have to look a lot of things up to remind myself how things work, or I ask ChatGPT if I'm doing something the right way. So that's just a normal part of the process. And I've had people come into the chat before. This right when I first started streaming, somebody came into the chat and said to me, I've learned all of HTML, all of CSS, and 70% of JavaScript. What should I learn next? And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Well, um, just because you took a course or you read some documentation doesn't mean you've really learned how to apply it. And projects are how you learn how to apply those things. Just saying. So, yes, we love good coffee, and I will agree. Colombian coffee is very nice. I'm not a coffee snob at all, but I do like a deep, rich cup of coffee. I will always err on the side of dark. Yeah, I like coffee with a lot of flavor. So I will agree. Colombian coffee is very nice. And Rizzy says, by the way, this is a tangent question. We love a good tangent. As a freelancer, how do you manage your day? Like, do you have a separate room where you work, or at a co-working space? How do you manage your time? So that's actually that's a great question. So this little area that I sit in, this is like my main workspace. This is supposed to be like a dining room. I live in like a 1 bedroom plus apartment, and in the US, that means that you have like a bedroom, a living room, a kitchen, and then the plus is like you have this little kind of, it's supposed to be a dining room, but I treat it as an office, and it's perfect for like my workspace. I think if I have owned a home in the past, and I hope to be a homeowner again in the future. I It's unlikely that I would have a freelancing space that was completely separate. I tend to keep everything together. That being said, in my bedroom, I do have a desk with an iMac. So if I want to, I don't know, if I'm just like, maybe if I'm like writing, or if I'm doing a blog, or if I just don't want to be here, I could sit in my bedroom. I have like a little nook. But I also do other things there, like maybe if I want to watch a tutorial, or if I do a lot of painting or drawing or art type things, and I want to watch like a painting tutorial, I might sit in my bedroom and watch the tutorial on my iMac and paint at the same time. It's a little extra, but it's not a dedicated different space specifically for freelancing. So if I'm streaming, if I'm working on my own projects, if I'm doing freelancing, I do everything in this area right here that you see me in. So no, nothing separate. Um, I have been to co-working spaces in the past. I personally don't go to a co-working space. I like just being home. I have a dog, my dog Heidi. I like being home with Heidi. And yeah, as far as managing my time, I mean, I have a calendar. I don't stick to my calendar as much anymore. Honestly, I'm not doing a ton of freelancing these days, because I just don't need to. I'm open to freelancing, but financially, I don't need to do freelancing right now. So I'm pretty much doing all content creation. And I've had some other, I guess, personal non-technical business that I've been doing, which is sort of where I stepped away to in December. Um, if I was deep into freelancing right now, I would have a calendar. So when I do freelancing, the job is broken down over, I mean, so let's say I take a freelancing job. The size jobs that I take are usually about 90-day projects. So I will take that 90 days down, and I will break it down into deliverables for the client. So maybe the first 2 weeks is that I'm writing the scope of work and I'm doing a mock-up. And then I present that mock-up as a deliverable. They okay it, or they ask for revisions, whatever. So every phase of the job gets broken down into deliverables. And I also, when I was deep into freelancing, I wasn't working on one thing at a time. I was juggling 2 or 3 things at a time. So maybe I would spend 2 weeks doing the scope of work and the mock-up, and then I would present that as a deliverable, and there wouldn't be another deliverable for 2 or 3 weeks. During that 2 or 3 weeks, I would bounce over to the other job and I would work on whatever I need to do for that deliverable. So if you are deep into, if you plan to make freelancing your like a full-time job, my advice is don't work on one project at a time. Try to work on at least 2 projects at a time and make sure that you're always breaking down those jobs into deliverables. So don't take one project and promise it in 2 or 3 weeks or even in 30 days. Make sure that you're building in time. I think it's perfectly reasonable to break a small to medium-sized project down into a 90-day period, and then look at the calendar and make sure that you're presenting deliverables every few weeks to keep the work moving forward, right? That's my advice. So, and Julian says, new subscriber. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And Memory Cliffs is asking, do you read documentation also if there are new updates? So I do read documentation. I like to, well, so to, I will be, okay. I'll be honest and say I don't seek out documentation if I don't have a specific question. So I really like the MDN documentation for CSS. I think MDN also has great documentation for HTML and accessibility. So if I have a specific question about how something works, or if I need to refresh my memory about how something works, I will check MDN. That is my favorite documentation. So yes, I do read documentation, but I generally don't seek out documentation until I have a specific question. The freelancer life intrigues. I definitely see myself working independently in the future. Like if someone says, I need a website, an online store to sell stuff, or internal tools automating stuff. Yeah, I mean, I think that freelance life is incredibly rewarding, also a bit frustrating. If ChatGPT had existed back when I was a full-time freelancer, a lot of the jobs that I would have taken would have turned out a little bit different. I really struggled. I bit off more than I could chew a couple of times and really, really struggled and had to go on Upwork and hire like overseas developers, and some just disappeared and some didn't do a good job, and it was really, really difficult. That being said, if I were to dive into full-time freelancing now, I mean, like I said, I'm open to it, but I don't want it to be my full-time source of income. It's a little too stressful for me. I'm also far enough into my career that I'm kind of tired of client bullshit right now. Not super excited about dealing with clients anymore. I have a low tolerance for, what's the word I'm looking for? I just have a low tolerance right now for client shenanigans. So, and I think there are a lot of opportunities to make money online, for example, as a content creator on YouTube or selling digital products. Coaching, I would love to do more coaching. I would like, rather than taking on clients to do client work, I would like to take on developers who want help with code reviews or want more personalized coaching attention. So I've put that up on my website. I've linked to it in my About tab. I haven't said much about it because it feels a little smarmy to me, and I don't want this channel to be a funnel for trying to sell people things. I put it there because I think people who want extra help from me or want more personalized attention, if they want it, they will seek it out. But I would like my income to be a combination of all of those things. A little bit of freelancing, a little bit of coaching, monetizing my YouTube channel, selling digital products. I want to diversify. So that's just me, but I'm at a much different place in my career than you are. You're new, you're just starting out, and I'm telling you, you will learn so much about yourself and dealing with people and the business of web design and development from freelancing. So from that perspective, I highly recommend it, but I'm here to tell you that the coding part of it is going to be the easy part. As much as I struggled with some of the work, some of the coding jobs that I took on, the hard part is dealing with clients and learning to manage a calendar and learning to manage expectations. And that is only something that you can get from having the experience itself. And if you're up for it, do it, because you will learn a lot and it will make you a better human. Absolutely will make you a better human. So I love these questions. And Memory Clip says, I just started to learn Android Studio to use, and I said to myself, thanks that I know CSS and web developing front hand. By this way, I saw similar logic in many part about positioning especially. Okay, good. So I think what you're saying here is that you have benefited from having a little better understanding of vanilla CSS, in particular positioning. I really want people to know the difference between a div and a span, which is about display, right? A div is by default block level element. A span is by default an inline element. I really want you to know what those are, why you choose one over the other. Display is one of the most fundamental, foundational things that you can understand as a front-end developer, and it's kind of shocking how many people don't understand it. Positioning also, understanding position relative, position absolute, fixed positioning, sticky positioning, and z-index. Understanding stacking order and how that all works, and avoiding a battle of the z-indexes, which I think you all have seen me get into more than once on this channel, and it's taken me years to get good at it. So I'm really happy to hear, Memory Clips, that little bit of vanilla CSS is helping you. That's the point of this. Rizzy G says, I also love doing things related, thankfully. I've been running the system of starting inside out from the smallest elements. I then combine styles and remove repeated code so it stays clean and I can add stuff to it later on. Yeah, I mean, this is another benefit of working on multiple projects, right? That you find a method and a system that works for you and that keeps things clean and understandable for you. So I love hearing that. I love, this is the great part of, I mean, from this perspective, I want to be, I don't want to be an influencer because that means something, right? When you hear people say that, I very much want to be influential in the front-end development community. I want to be influential, not in a way where I insist that people write CSS the way I do, although I think I do a good job with it, and I wouldn't mind if you wanted to write it the way I do. But the influential in a way where I am advocating for project-based learning, right? Project-based learning. So, and Rizzy says, I also do Muay Thai, so I want to start a manufacturing line later, and I want to make the website myself so I can sell without giving commissions to e-commerce websites. Rizzy, you are very ambitious. I love this. I love it. We love ambition. And nowadays I use React for big projects and I break it down into layers. For CSS, I use Sass and break it down. Tailwind is kind of troublesome for me when I try custom stuff like Front-End Mentor. Yeah. You should try making a product. I am. So actually, that is an excellent segue. Okay, I'm going to catch up on a couple more chats here and then we're going to segue into you should try making a product, because that's exactly what we're doing with our current project. And then Memory Clip says, sometimes just speaking in live stream and mentorship lessons will be so good. Thank you. Well, you're very welcome. if you're here, if one of the things that helps you is that you can practice your English just by being here and talking in the live stream, I'm happy to provide that. More than happy to provide that for you. Also, building a styling system like CSS would help a lot in understanding how CSS positions and styles. It took so long to get over the CSS hump, and I was stuck in it for like more than a year, and I'm finally starting to get out of it. I'm happy to hear that. And so let's go back to talking about digital products for a minute. That's exactly what I'm doing with this project. In fact, I have several projects lined up in 2026. Every project is going to have an open source version and a pro version. And I've decided that I'm going to sell digital products on Gumroad. I don't want to sell physical products. I have no interest in that. I do want to sell digital products. I think that there is what I've learned from streaming is that as much as I advocate for people practicing and learning the foundational core concepts, sometimes there are people who are busy and they just need something that works. And if I could be somebody that you trust and you would want to purchase one of my products, well, first of all, there's going to be an open source version of everything. And I will stream the making of every open source version and deploy a demo site and make sure that there is always something open source. And then behind the scenes, privately, I'm going to build out the responsive video gallery into a pro version, multiple layouts, multiple ways to parse a Vimeo or a YouTube URL, more robust JavaScript. And I have plans for several UI elements. And I'm not going to give them all away now, but as we finish, so for example, as we finish responsive video gallery, I think I said the next project we're going to work on is something called practice layouts. That's not going to be a pro version, but the project after that will be an open source version of another digital product that I want to sell. My philosophy is that if I am keeping an open source version of everything, I'm showing people how to build the open source version. Like I'm here streaming it, I'm talking about it, I'm sharing the process. I'm hoping that what that does is build credibility. Well, I think live streaming front-end development and providing educational content already makes me credible. I hope, I think. Yeah, I mean, think about, how did Tailwind get popular? Is it because the person who made Tailwind was talking about it constantly? I think that's how things like this grow in the community, right? You have to talk about it, you have to show it. I would also like to do like a CSS reset, not a full-on CSS library or framework, but my own version of a reset, but not a reset exactly, but a sort of like a UI starter pack is what I'm envisioning. So anyways, I have lots of ideas this year for digital products. And as somebody who is streaming front-end development and educational content, I feel like I have the perfect platform for building the open source version of everything that I want to sell as a product. This is my philosophy. We'll see how it goes. So, and Rizzy says, I could see myself investing in something like that. I loved seeing your deployment video. If you build a course where you go from proposal to app, step-by-step building and delivering. So I don't know if I'm ever going to build a course. I just don't think I would ever build a course, especially not freelance content, because I've already done quite a bit of freelance content and nobody watches those videos. They're high effort, low reward. My best effort is in just doing good old front-end development project-based videos. I'm just telling you from my own analytics what people actually watch. And I don't mind answering questions about freelancing, but it's unlikely you're going to see me doing any freelancing or sort of like freelancing process videos because nobody watches them. So, but I'm always happy to answer questions if you have them. So, Rehan is here. Hello. Welcome. We're happy to have you. And Rizzy says, this is a good comment. Nowadays, I could tell Tailwind designs, especially if they were made by AI. Like, I could tell it came straight from DeepSeek. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me because that's how it used to be with Bootstrap. When Bootstrap came out in like the mid 2010s ish, I think Bootstrap came out in 2011, something like that. I mean, we had a decade where you could tell it was Bootstrap because they all look the same. So. Okay, so let's get started. If you have more comments, oh, I'm sorry, Malik, I missed this one. You know it's a good stream when we are 30 minutes in and still having great conversations. I agree. I agree. I will say this, Rizzy G, you are incredibly engaging in the chat. Incredibly engaging. I do love it when you're here. I mean, I love everybody who's here. But Rizzy G in particular, you have a lot to talk about, and I am here for it. So I will never ever get tired of your questions and comments. I love them. I love everybody who comes to hang out with me. Okay, so let's get started. So here's what I want to do today. We do definitely need to do some QA. I'm not particularly worried about that at this point because what I would really like to do is figure out what our markup and our HTML is going to look like for the modal dialog. And I've already decided that when we get to the JavaScript part of the modal, I'm probably not going to use AI. We're going to do a little bit of JavaScript struggle because I haven't done a lot of JavaScript struggle lately. And I'm just feeling like I kind of want to figure some things out myself and not have AI do it all for me. But you all also know my philosophy, which is that I let the HTML and CSS do the heavy lifting, and then I tend to leave the JavaScript for the click events. So there isn't even any JavaScript to do until we figure out what our markup and our HTML, our markup and our CSS even look like for the modal. So let's jump into that today. And then I think in the next, I mean, I don't know, shoot, we could be doing the JavaScript by tomorrow, right? So first I want to decide what am I going to use for this pop-up. I was thinking that we should use the dialog element. So let's read this and make sure that this is semantic for what we're using it for. So the dialog HTML element represents a modal or non-modal dialog box or other interactive component such as a dismissible alert inspector or subwindow. The HTML dialog element is used to create both modal and non-modal dialog boxes. Modal dialog boxes interrupt interaction with the rest of the page being inert, while non-modal dialog boxes allow interaction with the rest of the page. JavaScript should be used to display the JavaScript should be used to display the dialog element. Use the showModal method to display a modal dialog and the show method to display a non-modal dialog. So I think this would be modal because it would interrupt interaction with the rest of the page. So what happens here? So you can click outside of this. I mean, what does 20 what does 2013 modal even look like? Hang on. Where are you? Here it is. Okay, so it's just divs, div, 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 anchor element. With an iframe. So nothing really semantic here. I mean, who knows? Maybe Modal didn't even exist back in 2013. I don't know. This element includes, okay, so there are some global attributes. Warning, the tab index attribute must not be used on the dialog element. See usage notes. Okay, so dialog, I think that dialog is a is a good option because we've got some built-in JavaScript methods that we can use with this. I do kind of want to, we could also use Popover, right? Here's the Popover API. So the Popover API provides developers with a standard, consistent, flexible mechanism for displaying popover content on top of other page content. Popover content can be controlled either using HTML attributes or via JavaScript. Yeah, we've done Popover before, and it is really easy to, you need very little JavaScript when you use Popover. But here's the other thing that we have to do. So here's the behavior, right? Well, first of all, we have to put in our markup an attribute with the ID of what we're actually opening. So hang on one second. And Rayhan says, just a small correction, my name is pronounced Rayhan as in Sunray. Well, thank you for correcting me. The EI was throwing me off there. So Rayhan, thank you for correcting me. I appreciate that. Okay, so we're going to need to make sure, hang on, I can't. Oh, do I not have, oh gosh darn it, Angela. I don't even have VS Code open yet. Okay, so here's how I envision this working. So we need to make sure that each of the elements, like the button, has a data attribute. So let's look at, this is, I'm not finished with the JSON yet, but the JSON has an ID, and this is the ID of the video. So let's take this, and we're going to need to make sure that each button has a data attribute. So when you click on the button, you get the attribute, and then you build the iframe for the video, right? So that's how I'm envisioning this working. Really what I need to do before tomorrow is finish building out this JSON file so we can dynamically build our gallery and then make sure that we've got the data attributes in there. We would also want to make sure that we have, so there's a data attribute, and we would probably want to put in a data type also. So we know that we're building either the YouTube iframe or the Vimeo iframe. So we would want to make sure that we would have these two things. So we would want to get the data type. If it's YouTube, build the YouTube iframe using this ID. Make sense? Yeah. Okay, that makes sense to me. And then I put, let's see here. I put the markup right into the page, but I think it would be better to create this element. But for now, we're just going to put it into the page. We would create this element. I mean, do we want to use Dialog or do we want to use Popover? Let's keep reading the Popover. Okay, a very common pattern on the web is to show content over the top of other content, drawing the user's attention to specific important information or actions that need to be taken. This content can take several different names: overlays, pop-ups, popovers, dialogues, etc. We will refer to them as popovers through the documentation. Generally speaking, these can be modal, meaning that while a popover is being shown, the rest of the page is rendered non-interactive until the popover is actioned in some way. For example, an important choice is made. Non-modal, meaning that the rest of the page can be interacted with while the popover is being shown. I'm leaning towards dialogue. Yeah, I'm leaning towards dialogue. Okay, so let's just do dialogue and then we can style that. One moment. Okay. And then I'm going to go to YouTube and I just want to go right to the source to get a current iframe markup. So let's just go to videos. I'm just going to grab anything.
Hey guys, so in today's video,
Share, embed, copy. What are the embed options? I don't know. Okay, we'll just copy. So here's what a modern embed looks like. Okay, so we've got the width and the height, which is totally fine. We will add CSS to make sure that this is responsive. Here's the embed URL. The title is YouTube Video Player. My instinct is that this would be the title of the video. Okay. Frame border equals 0. Allow accelerometer, autoplay, clipboard write, encrypted media, gyroscope, picture-in-picture, web share. Do I want to allow all those things? Oh, I just had to scroll down. Okay. Embed options, show player controls, enable privacy enhanced mode. What is that? When you turn on privacy enhanced mode, YouTube won't store information about visitors on your website unless they play the video. Okay. API reference, developer sample. By embedding YouTube videos on your site, you are agreeing to YouTube API terms of service. API reference. Let's see what this has to say. The iframe player API lets you embed a YouTube video player on your website and control the player using JavaScript. I'm not really planning to do a lot of controlling. I really just want to know what the attributes are. That's all I care about. Functions, attributes. Hang on. Functions. Yeah, I don't care about this part of the API.
Hey guys, so in today's video,
I'm gonna ask ChatGPT this question, even though I think it's gonna get it wrong. We're just gonna try it anyways. Can you tell me all of the available YouTube iframe attributes? Here's a sample iframe from one of my videos. So we've got standard HTML iframe attributes, things the browser understands, and then YouTube specific embed parameters, things YouTube reads from the source URL. So standard HTML iframe attributes commonly used with YouTube. These are not YouTube specific, but they are what you'll see in real embeds. So we've got the source, the width, the height, the title, allow full screen, which is a Boolean attribute, frame border deprecated, permission and security related, allow, controls. Okay, good. I'm glad I asked this question because I did think that those were YouTube specific, and it makes sense that it's actually markup specific. Controls which browser features the iframe can use, common values, accelerometer, autoplay, clipboard write, encrypted media, gyroscope, picture-in-picture, web share. YouTube recommends this exact set. So this exact set. Then we have referrer policy. Controls how much referrer info is sent. Common value, strict origin when cross origin. Loading. Native lazy loading. I don't think that we need that because none of the iframes are going to load until there's a click event on the button, right? Sandbox, rare for YouTube. The YouTube embed URL parameters, the important part. These go after the question mark in the source URL. Okay, yes, we have additional parameters here. Autoplay equals 1. Autoplays the video. Requires mute equals 1 in most browsers. Yeah, I did know that. So it starts the video muted. Controls 0 or 1. Show or hide player controls. YouTube may still show minimal controls. Loop equals 1. Loops the video. Requires playlist ID to work. Oh, interesting. Start and end. Okay. UI and branding. Modest branding equals 1. Reduces YouTube branding. Rel equals 0. Prevents unrelated videos at the end. I do kind of like this. Now only shows videos from the same channel. Okay. Full screen, FS equals 0 or 1. Enable or disable full screen button. IV load policy 1 or 3. Controls video annotations. 3 hides them. Interaction and tracking. Enable the JavaScript API equals 1. Required if you want to control the player with JavaScript. I don't. Origin required when using the JavaScript API securely. Plays in line equals 1. Prevents full screen playback on iOS. Okay, we don't need to go any further here. all of my questions have been answered. We're not going to autoplay. We're not going to mute. We're going to show all the controls. I don't care about looping. I don't care about hiding branding. I just wanted to understand what some of these things are. And we're going to go ahead and use all of the default values. I think that the title should be the title of the video. That's what I think. So I'm just going to grab this title. And I'm going to change that when we do the JavaScript to create the element. So how does this look? Oh, and I'm on our GitHub. Where are you? You should be right here. Oh, dialog not open, display none. Okay. We have a little bit of CSS to write. So the user agent style sheet for a dialog. So we must have, I probably have to, do I have to put some JavaScript in here in order to style this? Boy, what did I just say? I said I wasn't going to use AI to work on this, didn't I? I've used Dialog before. Okay, I said I wasn't going to use AI. That does not mean that I'm not going to go back and look at a past project from a year ago where I used Dialog. Let's see here. I think it was this. Make this a little bigger. So I used a dialog, which was hidden. Oh. Oh, was I using Sass? Yes, I was. Oh, this is interesting. That I wrote all of this. So has dialogue changed? Like, does the spec? Dialogue, position absolute. Or did I just write that and not realize? Here. Thank you. Thank you, Malik. That's technically not AI. It's just me helping it's just past Angela helping present Angela. That's all. I think that I do have to put something in the JavaScript to show the dialogue. Yeah. So we can go ahead and do that. Just for the purposes of styling. So I'm just going to do a class of dialogue. And then in our JavaScript, I'm just going to do a function show dialogue. And then we can put this up here. We can say dialog. Dialog showModal. Dialog show. Is that right? Yep, showModal. And then let's also add a class to the body. So we already have the body defined up here, right? So we can just say body class list add. And we'll just add dialog as a class to the body. And that is also going to help with some styling, I think, right? Show dialog. Holy crap, we did that. Look at that. I'm getting better at, am I getting better at JavaScript? I think I am. I love this. Okay. And then look at all of, it gives us a backdrop. It gives us a pseudo element that we can style as a backdrop. It's got some, again, user agent style sheet. So it's got some default styles. And so we're doing the modal specifically so you cannot interact with the back of the anything that's happening in the background. But what I want to do is make it so when you click on the backdrop, we'll do a click event to dismiss, to close the dialog, right? And then you can play.
Hey guys, so in today's video, I'm going to walk you through.
Nice. And then this is showing I don't really care about that for now. We'll wait and let's just get everything wired up and see how it goes. And then we'll decide how things should look. So there we go. So when this comes up, we'll see the play button, we'll see the thumbnail, and we'll see all of the normal branding. I am completely fine with that. So, okay. I love this. Okay, let's get back here. So then on click, when you click a button that has the data attribute of the video ID, we are going to create the modal window element. I'm talking about what we're going to do with the JavaScript. We will create the modal window element, and then the inner HTML will be the dialog with the class of dialog, the iframe, and then the iframe will add the ID from the video, which is a data attribute on the button element. It'll know that it's a YouTube video because there will be a data type equal YouTube, and then we'll do the same exact thing for Vimeo. And then we will put in a custom title. So we're going to put in a custom ID and a custom title, and then everything else will be the same. So all we have to do right this minute is style, and then we can go directly over to the JavaScript, which we should easily be able to get to the JavaScript tomorrow, I'm thinking. So, okay, and then we also should have dialogue on the body. And let's see here. Blocked aria hidden on an element because its descendant retained focus. The focus must not be hidden from assistive technology. Avoid using aria hidden on a focused element or its ancestor. Element with focus button, play button. Okay, so this is something going on with YouTube. I don't think this has anything to do with me, so I'm not going to worry about that. Okay, so when we have dialogue on the body, I don't want us to be able to scroll on the background. So let's open up CSS. We'll call this the Modal Dialog. So Dialog, I think we want, which is basically the body class, right? We'll say overflow, I guess just overflow hidden, right? Which just keeps the back, yes. So now you can't scroll on the back. We may have to ask ChatGPT some questions about whether or not that's accessible, but that's my preferred behavior. Can we do that here? No. I can't do it here, but you know, 2013. Okay, and then let's make sure that our backdrop, I want to change the color. So this would be the dialog. Oh, we don't want to have multiple classes though, do we? Let's change, we have to change. So we'll just say dialog modal. I'm gonna have to change this. Okay, so dialog modal, backdrop pseudo element. And I'm just going to change the background color to black. And we'll try 50% alpha transparency. Make it a little darker. Yeah, I like that. Okay. And then what's this big border that we have? Okay, so the modal dialog has a lot of padding. Or is it padding? What is it here? Yes, it has 1 em of padding, so let's take that padding off. Okay. And then what else is happening here? So the iframe there's border here in another space. So where is that coming from? We're not going to try to style the document. Frame border 0. Okay. Here, where is that coming from? I mean, is it coming from here? Yes, it was. Okay. Border 0. Where's this space coming from? I think this space is because it's inline. Oh, content box. Well, that's the overflow clip margin content box. Okay. The element itself is border box. What's the display? Are iframes display inline? Yes, they are display inline. So that took out that white space. Okay. I mean, honestly, there's not that much more to do here. Let's make sure that the iframe, since it's got a fixed width, which is completely fine, let's just make sure that that also has a max width of 100%. And, well, probably height auto, right? Okay, this is all coming back to me now. So this is going to have to be, this is almost going to be treated like an image. So let's make sure, I have to think about this for a second. I think we can give the dialogue an aspect ratio, right? So we'll say width. It's going to have, I have to think about this. It can't be width 100%, height 100%. Usually when I do that, it's inside of a layout like grid, so I don't have to, I have to think about this for a second. So I'm completely fine with the iframe being 560 by 315 because that's check it on the calculator here. I'm pretty sure that's, yep, that's the 16:9 aspect ratio. Oh, so if we make this 560 pixels, height, auto, and then aspect ratio 16:9, and then we make this well, this has a width and a height already in line. So technically that works. I don't think this is gonna work. Why am I not thinking about the right way to do this? Object fit. Cover. There we go. There we go. I knew it would come to me. We do need this. It's overriding the inline styles, so I'll take it. Okay, there we go. Nice and responsive. Okay. Whew. Takes a minute to get there sometimes, but eventually we find it. Okay. What else do we need to do? I think we need a close button, right? So we'll just make, should we make a fancy box close button? Should we? We'll make something similar. So we do have an SVG, which is a close button. We'll do this. So this would be inside the dialog or outside the dialog. What did I do here? It needs to be a button. And I put it inside the dialog. Okay. So we'll give this a class of, I'm just going to say close dialog. Aria label close video. And then our SVG is going to be aria hidden true. And we're going to take out the stroke, the current color stroke, but we leave that attribute there. And then we'll say close dialog. Oops. So this would need to be the modal dialog. Okay, I'm going to put this down here. This would also need to be position relative. And then this is going to be position absolute. And we'll say top we'll put this in the top right corner. So we'll say top -2 rems, right -2 rems. I can't see you at all. Why can't I see you? Oh, is it because it's white? Okay, so let's... It's not even getting the cursor, so it's completely hidden behind the backdrop. So I think that I have to put it outside of, I don't think it needs to be inside the dialog. How did I get it to work? Oops. So this is very clearly here. How did I get that to work? I mean, oh, it's not positioned outside. Hmm, that's interesting. So I think in order for this to be literally positioned out, it has to be outside of this element, I think. Okay, that's fine. I don't think it has to be in, I don't think this button has to be inside the dialog, but I'm honestly not sure. I don't know if that's going to matter with accessibility, if that button needs to be inside. Probably this is going to need like ARIA controls. ARIA controls, dialog, modal. If it's not going to be inside the element, so then this would have to have an ID. So people know what this button is controlling. And then this would be absolutely positioned against modal window, not the dialog modal, right? Oh, also, I spelled this wrong. Okay, let's go back and do this again with the correct spelling. I'll put this back inside. Even though I don't think it's gonna work, but yeah, it still doesn't work. It's hidden behind the backdrop, but that's because it's inside this element. So hmm. Oh, yeah, this is I have to think about this. So modal window. Yeah, that makes sense. I want to go back to what I was doing. Okay, so what's happening with this backdrop that's just blocking everything? Okay. I'm using the dialogue. Okay, I guess I'm getting help from ChatGPT on. Okay, but this isn't JavaScript help. This is help understanding the markup. And I agree, Malik. Relative should work too, in my opinion. Thank you. Every misspelled version of a property should work, but it doesn't. That's cute. Okay, I'm using the dialogue element to show an iframe, which works perfectly. But I have a button element inside the dialog element, and it seems like backdrop is not letting me display the button with absolute positioning outside of the dialog. I don't know if that makes sense. Okay, well, at least I'm not crazy that we are observing the correct behavior and it's not something that I'm doing wrong. So, when dialog is shown modally, showModal, the browser effectively does this, puts the dialog in the top layer. So that's a direct result of deciding that we're going to do showModal instead of just show. So even if you absolutely position a button inside the dialog and visually shove it outside the dialog's rectangle, two things can happen. Hit testing clicks outside the dialog can get eaten by the backdrop. The portion outside may render but isn't reliably clickable. The works everywhere fix. Keep the button within the dialog box in terms of layout, but make it look like it's floating outside by giving the dialog some extra padding and then positioning the button into that padding. Oh, that's a good trick. If you want it outside the top edge visually, you can still fake it by using negative translate, but keep it inside the dialog's clickable area. Oh, that actually is a good idea too. Okay, let's try that. Okay, so instead of, so we will give this some padding, but I think that means then that we also have to give this padding top. Okay. Padding top, 3.5 rems, and we're going to do padding on the right, also 3.5 rems. And then top and right will be 0. Instead, we'll use translate. So it would be transform, translate, and it's X and Y, so it would be -3. Hang on, I have to think about this. -3 rems, -3 rems. Did I misunderstand this? Hang on. Overflow visible. Optional, doesn't solve hit testing alone. It still doesn't work. It doesn't matter if it has padding, it's still putting it outside the dialog container with translate. The works keep the button within the dialog box in terms of layout, but make it look like it's floating outside. Okay, this works. This works. We just have to adjust the padding. So there it is. We can see it now. Okay, so we just have to adjust the padding of the dialog. So if we're gonna say we definitely don't need this much padding, and it's proportionally putting padding around everything, and if the button is 30, so let's get the button the right size first, right? So this works. Close dialog. Close dialog. SVG. And we want the, I think it's stroke, no, to be white. And we know it's 1.333 is the size of the SVG. So 3 rems minus 1.333 divided by 2 means that our padding will be 0.8335 rems. So that'll be 3 by 3. And then we'll say background color will be black. And then we'll also give this a border, 2 pixels, solid white, and then we'll make it a circle. That's pretty big. Oh, it is 2 rems by 2 rems. That's why it's so, yeah, it doesn't need to be that big. So this would actually be 0.5. There, I'm good with that. And then let's make sure that this has a hover. So now our button, oh, it's 52 by 52. That's probably because of the border. So let's do a little calculation with our padding. So padding is going to be calc 0.5 rems minus 2 pixels. There we go. 48 by 48. Perfect. And then let's give this a hover. So we'll say close dialog, focus, close dialog, hover, close dialog, active. And we'll transition the background color. So we'll just invert it, which is kind of the easiest. So we'll change it to white. And then let's make sure that this transitions. Transition the background color. 300 milliseconds, ease in, out. And then we will also transition, we'll keep the border the same color and we'll just transition the SVG. Also 300 milliseconds, ease in, out. And then we can just copy these. So we'll have a focus, hover, active, trigger that SVG, and we'll change the stroke to black. Perfect. Okay, so our button is set. Now let's adjust the padding. So let's change this width. I don't know if this is going to work. We're going to play with it. We're going to play with it and see how it goes. So let's do a calculation of 560 pixels plus 3 rems to make up for the padding. that didn't really work. Oh, it kind of worked. Mm. You know what I want to do is I want to take out it's okay to take out these inline styles in the iframe, right? I don't think you have to have that. I don't think it mattered. Okay, why can't I get this to be bigger? Why won't it be bigger? The calculation is right, but it's not actually making it bigger. Is there some other value in here that I don't know about? I don't think so. I don't have any other values in here. Okay, so we know this is 608. I'm so confused. Let's say I put in 1200 pixels. Okay, so maybe the change is just so subtle that I can't tell. Also, do we like this? Maybe we like it that it's a little bit bigger. What do we think? I kind of like it, actually. This is still responsive. We're really going to have to check and see what this looks like on mobile. I feel like it's... I think we're going to have to say we're going to have to adjust the padding for the left and the bottom. We're so close. Okay, let's just combine these. So we know we want the padding on the top to be 3 rems, the padding on the right to be 3 rems, 0 on the left and 0 on the bottom. That's probably going to fix it. There we go. Yeah, I guess that still looks proportional, right? I feel like it's still off though when it gets really small. Like there, it's fine. And right around... Am I overthinking this? So there it's 350 by 196. Let's see what the math says. 350 divided by 196.88. Yeah, it's still, no, it's still proportional, but The dialog is proportional. The iframe, okay, let's see what the iframe is. 302 divided by 148.88. Yeah, that is not proportional. Should this also? Should maybe the iframe also needs to have an aspect ratio. Do they both need to have an aspect ratio? I don't know. Let's try it. Adding the padding kind of changed things a little, didn't it? So it did change. So does the dialog need more padding to make up for that? Yes. Maybe it needs padding all the way around. Does it need padding all the way around? Maybe that's the, instead of just putting, yeah, maybe it just needs the padding all the way around. No. So, so here it's completely fine. We're all good with the padding on the top and the right. And then right around here. It would still be doing that though, even without the padding. Look at that. 260. Let's see here. 260 divided by 132.25 is still not 16 to 9. So maybe it doesn't matter. So here's 260 by 132.25. That's without the padding. If we add the padding in for our button, 244 divided by 116. It's still off. Maybe. Is this a real problem? Is this a real problem? What happens if we...
Hey guys, so in today's video, I'm going to walk you through a LAMP stack server setup on DigitalOcean.
Do we need... If you... You don't... Do you need a max width? Is that why? No. Why isn't the aspect ratio handling this? Or is this the iframe just being an iframe? Or, since this is position relative, no, I wouldn't want to absolutely position the iframe because we're relying on that padding. Is this a real problem? I don't even know. Is this a real problem? What is this? What is 777 divided by 416.06? Yeah, this aspect ratio is also off. If I take off the padding, 193 divided by 432.06. This is also not 16 to 9. Why? Why? Tell me why. What if it's just padding 0? Divided by 464.06. That's correct. So it's the padding. It has to do with the padding. So if we have three if we have 3 rounds of padding on the top and the left, I think that we have to account for it here. (1200 pixels plus 3 rems). That looks better, but I don't know if that's right. 777 divided by 416.06. Yeah, it's still not right. See, if we take the aspect ratio off, so we know the aspect ratio is doing its job. And when you use aspect ratio, you're not supposed to set a height. You're supposed to set a width. What about this? So 1248 divided by 702, you can't really see it there. 1248 divided by 702. That's perfect. So this is the dialog element here has the aspect ratio. Let's see what the iframe is. 1200 divided by 654. Yeah, it's off. It's 1.834. It's not 1.777. And it must be because I feel like it's because of the width and the height. Maybe it's because of the object fit cover. If we take object fit cover off, what happens? Yeah, nothing. It's still doing the same thing. Okay. So, what's the best way to deal with this? What's the best way to deal with this? I am part of me is like, Angela, this is not a real problem. You need to move on. This tiny variation in the aspect ratio is not a real problem. Another part of me is frustrated because I don't understand the math. I don't, if the padding is creating this problem, although the padding isn't, I'm setting the padding on the top and on the sides so that it's probably off because I'm not accounting for the height either. Can I do a height? Can you do calc auto +3? Does that? No, of course that wouldn't work. Height auto +3. Yeah. Invalid property. I think that's the reason why, though. It's because I'm adding 3 rems to the top. So if I'm accounting for the extra 3 rems that I'm adding on the right, I also have to do it for the height, except the height is auto. So what if we just do, yeah, that's not going to work either. So, okay, so just to test our theory, let's only put the padding on the, let's only put the padding on the right, not on the top. And we'll keep the height to auto. Okay, it already looks different, right? It already looks different doing just that. By just putting it on the side, and then object fit cover, although it didn't really, $212 divided by 146.25. Yeah, still not proportional. And part of this might be because I don't really have control over the iframe, right? Because an iframe is embedding a document from a different source. And I can tell you from experience, it's a bad idea to try and control what's happening inside of an iframe, especially when it comes from a source that you don't control, right? Okay. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to keep it just like this, and we'll do some testing, and then we'll decide how we want to handle it. And I can see here that we need to move this a little bit away from the edge because our focus. So where are we here? Where are we actually positioning this button? So let's do like 5 pixels, and then I'll smush it in a little. There we go. And this does have some overlap here. How does this look? I mean, what we're doing is already an improvement. But also, I do think that mobile's going to handle this a lot differently, right? Should we overlap this button a little bit? We could. Let's do 1.5 rems. And then this could be, we'll do also 1.5. 1.5, although I think it's still going to be right up against the edge. So maybe this could be, oh, that's a lot. Oh, because I changed the padding, that's why. So we do want to keep this 3. There we go. We can't reduce this padding at all. There, how does that look? Okay. I would like to figure this out though. I would really like to understand this math. It's kind of annoying, but I do like it a little bigger. What do we think? I do like this a little bit bigger. So we can add, let's add some, we'll do a quick bit of JavaScript to close the modal. So you could either click on the button or you could just click on the backdrop, right? So we'll do, we'll just say close modal. equals document, query selector, and what was it? Close dialog. And then we'll say backdrop equals document, query selector. It would be dialog modal, backdrop. And we probably want to do like if dialog, right? Always a good idea to put your stuff in an if statement. Yeah, especially since we're creating this element, so this wouldn't even be on the page load, would it? And then we'll say hide dialog. And then we'll say if dialog, if dialog, close modal. What is it? If dialog, close modal, add event listener, click, whoops. Oh, wait a second. showModal, close. Am I doing this right? So this would be if you click on the button. Oops, what's happening? Oh, close. There we go. So it's still here. It's just display none when it's not open. Okay. Well, I'm happy with our styles for now. Yeah, I'm happy. I'm fine with the styles for now. So if I take this out, if I comment this out, it'll be showing again, and then we can close it. Oh, well, I can't close it because I just commented it out. But okay, I'm clearly very frustrated with the math. I don't understand how the math is working if I'm adding padding and I have an aspect ratio. What I think is happening is because I'm adding padding on the top but my height has to be auto in order for the aspect ratio to be correct or to do its job. And I can't calculate auto plus 2.5 to account for what's happening on the top. So I'm pretty sure that's why my aspect ratio isn't working correctly. And I want to use aspect ratio. We could just use padding to like hold open the container, right? It's kind of the old way of doing it where you do height 0 and then padding bottom like a percentage. So for 16:9, it would be like 50, what is it? 56.75, I think it is, something like that. It's kind of the old way of doing it though. I think aspect ratio is better, but clearly this is what I'm running into because that backdrop, the pseudo element on the dialog is right here. Literally it says top layer. So you can't put anything above that layer. You kind of have to fake it with padding. I'm not sure this is a real problem. I'm not sure this is a real problem. Because stuff like this always behaves totally differently on a mobile device anyways. And the whole point of this was to just figure out, what do we even want our markup to be, right? Because you really can't write the JavaScript to create that element until you know what your markup is. I think it is helpful to have everything styled and ready to go on top of that, right? So I feel like we did what we needed to do today. We can write the JavaScript tomorrow to dynamically build our grid. We know that we need data attributes to hold that ID and the video type. We're also going to have to do this again for Vimeo, but honestly, I'm less worried about Vimeo because once we get the YouTube stuff in place, we have a blueprint, we have a system, and then we can just go over to Vimeo and get the code that we need, right? Yeah, so tomorrow's going to be a JavaScript day. And I'm kind of looking forward to it. So it's going to be a struggle session though. It's going to be a struggle session. So if you're into that, I know some of you are, if you're into that, that's what we're going to do tomorrow. So yeah, AI is good at explaining things to us, right? So I do appreciate that. Supreme Overlord is here. Hello, welcome. And I think, Malik, this is your comment on the weird aspect ratio, that you see no problem with it. If it was smaller, it might be harder for mobile to tap on the actual video functions. And Malik is saying, good work today. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good with what we got done today. And here's the thing about project-based learning. I'm always surprised at the things that I run into. I didn't think I was going to spend time on this today. This is not what I thought was going to happen today, that I was going to spend all this time trying to understand why this aspect ratio isn't working correctly. I thought that I was going to spend all my time struggling through JavaScript, and that was the least of my worries today. So there's that. Okay, let's go ahead and we can go ahead and push this up to our Git repository. And then we'll come back tomorrow and keep working, right? It's all productive. It's all productive. Hey, do me a favor. If you haven't yet, go ahead and like the video. I would appreciate it so much. Helps me push this out to people who might be interested in this type of content, who just like enjoy learning vanilla, want to get back to basics. We're not anti-framework or library here. We just like to practice the basics, right? Markup and styles for dialogue. And hey, if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. We would love to have you. I would love to have you. This is a fun little community of people who just like to hang out and talk about development. We had a ton of questions today from Rizzy G about freelancing. I'm always happy to share that information with people. I think, like I said, it's unlikely that I'm going to do any freelancing content for this channel in the future because it's just nobody really watches it. It's high effort, low reward. But I'm here to answer questions in the chat on anything freelance related, and I love talking about my experience as a freelancer. It was disappointing to make freelancing content that nobody watched, because I actually really do enjoy talking about that experience. And I found myself in so many wild situations dealing with clients. I'm always happy to share that knowledge. So there's that. Okay. Everybody, have a great rest of your day. I'll be back tomorrow. Come hang out with me. Come hang out with me tomorrow. We're going to dig more into the JavaScript part of this and get this thing. So tomorrow's Sunday. I would love it if we could get this deployed by the end of the day Monday. This is a 5-day sprint. So I'm going to be here every day through Wednesday this week. I'm not going to stream Thursday and Friday. Then I'll be back again on the weekend. And moving forward into 2026, I'm going to be streaming on Tuesday and Thursday mornings. Same time, same place, 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time for about 2 hours. I'm usually here for about 2 to 2.5 hours. So hopefully you can join me during the week. Put me on in the background while you're working. Let me know if you have any questions. Let's just chat. We'll hang out. We'll work together, right? Okay, have a great rest of your day wherever you are. I will see you tomorrow and we will continue. Bye-bye.